Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Allianz Joy. It is so good to see you today. I am very glad to be here with you on this episode of Allianz Joy. I am sharing with you some of the why and some of the why of writing, because I'm going to share with you a little bit about my book and how it all came about and why it is so important to write once in a while. So if that is one of your things, then definitely keep going with that. And I'll share with you why I love that so much and why I tell so many of my clients and patients to write. So welcome on this beautiful day, Allianz Joy on winwinwomen.tv. And you can find many of my episodes on my website as well, elianhaan.com. And while I'm sharing that with you, I remember here that I didn't change my name. So I'm not going to give that to you right now. And then share with you some of the things that came about when I was writing and while I was making the decision to keep going with that and make a little bit of a book of that, right? So I needed to do that just to share more. Most of my life, I have been teaching. I've been teaching at least for more than 40 years, not in school capacity, but in capacity of wellness and fitness coach and life coach. And when I share with people, then over time, when you do that so long, you kind of like bring your own little wisdom in there and your own little quotes and all that stuff. So that's what I started doing. And when I started writing more, it was also very healing for myself. So one of the things that I always share with people when we're talking anxiety, depression, just working through trauma, moving through trauma, I share a lot of the physical things that we can do, the physical exercises or movements that we can do for anxiety and for depression and overall health. But I also share some of the exercises that we can do for our minds, right? Some of that mental stuff. And while I'm talking about that, I noticed, and while I wrote so much, I noticed that it was also helping me just moving through trauma and moving through things from the past. Sometimes we call it trauma, sometimes it doesn't have that big of a meaning to you, but it's very revealing and very relieving if you write down for yourself what your thoughts are. It's just a process of getting to know yourself better and a process of where you could really just kind of see what comes alive in this persona that is you. And when you start seeing that, it's really important that you keep reflecting, right? And that you keep growing. Most of the time I say to the people that I work with, well, it is not so much that you have to change, but you want to grow and you want to get to know yourself so that you can share with others what you have learned through the experiences that you have gone through. And sometimes if you feel bad, you just kind of have to look around and look back and see what you already had accomplished, right? Because that makes a whole lot of sense. And it puts you right in the place where you are now. And when you come into that place of now, then you know that that is a place where you can, where from you can move forward. And as a life coach, I do that a lot with people. I help them move forward, find some sort of a, that word comes always back, find a purpose, the why of the things that we do, the why of why we're being here, the why of we feel the need to share or to do the things that we do, or to care, or to teach, or to work, in the industry you are. So whatever your why is, it is very important to find that, because that kind of pinpoints down a few things from where you can move forward, a few of your skills, your values, your traits. And from there, you can move forwards and say, well, this is what I really like to do or love to do. And I really love to bring that to others. It gives me a feeling of respect for myself. It's a really important thing that we feel that respect for self. If we feel that others are not respecting us, that usually also comes from the fact that we are not respecting ourselves. So that self-esteem, that self-respect is really important for me, not just finding it myself through helping others, finding myself through helping others. I always talk on social media about that. We call that heal to heal, right? So that I heal myself through you and vice versa. But also, if you are thinking about a lot of things, then that kind of forms you. And the fun thing is, you should do that when you get a little older, right? When you're young, you just kind of move and think you know it all and, enjoy life. And when you're coming to in that stage of reflection, it's actually a lot of fun. I always wrote down a lot of things and I always said, well, one day I'll just write my memories down. When did that really come into fruition? Well, I can show you now. Ta-da! It is called 60 Miles from Neiman's, and it is written by me herself, right? Here's the back of the book. It has pictures, it has letters, right? It's a great read because that's what other people say. So I'll take that with me, right? I love compliments about the book. But why did I start writing it? It really came alive when my son left the house, and so now we were empty nesters, and I felt that it was time to write my stories down for him, for the kids. So sometimes if you do that for the kids, then you are telling your life as you would really want to. You want to be truthful, you want to be deep, profound about it. You want to tell stories from the past. And one of the things that we don't do nowadays enough is tell stories. And so I realized that I didn't do that a lot. I realized the importance of it. I realized how much I have missed that in my life constantly, because storytelling in my life was not much there, in a sense of my parents passed away when my sister and I were still at a young age. And so we couldn't reflect and we couldn't get that frame of reference, right? So what happened when we did this? What happened when we did that? Nowadays, it's different with the children and with youth. They're also very busy doing their stuff and growing up and being on computers and cell phones and games. And that is all right, but in our household as well. I didn't miss out on the quality time with him, but I did miss out a little bit on telling stories. But if we wanted to tell stories, then they are not so interested at a young age, right? It's usually when you come to your 30s, 40s, or you have a family yourself, that you're really going to think about, how would I tell that? How would what did my mom do in those days? What would I ask her, or what can I ask her, right? And what kind of advice would she give me, because she's been through that? I missed out a little bit like that. I missed that. My sister missed it as well. We talked about it a lot, that we didn't have a lot of stories to reflect on except for our own memories. And for that reason, I thought, well, if it's for the grandkids, let's write it down so that they have somewhat of a story, somewhat of a legacy. And secondly, it has to be a little bit entertaining, right? It has to be a little bit, if you call it a soap opera or a crazy life or adventures or a journey. Mine was certainly that. And so there are stories there. There are stories of growing up, stories of student life, stories of dance and movement and fitness, stories of the early Jane Fonda days, stories that drove me to move to the United States, stories that were struggles, stories of struggle, stories of trauma, stories of difficult things that you have to encounter when you're in a new country, or you're not with your own support system and your friends around you, and how to start a business or how to go about finding work even, right? All that stuff that was a little a struggle once in a while. There was some trauma in there. And I think, thinking back about that, I think it was good that I wrote a lot of things down, because I had a lot to go back to, and so I could put that all together in a nice little story for the grandkids, if they're even interested. Luckily enough, it became a beautiful book. It was a long journey. There's a lot in it. There's a lot in it about the last couple of years. There's a lot in it about little tips for life coaching. Like, how do you get there? How do you get to that stage of acceptance and that stage of, just knowing where you are, and you might as well stay. It's good. It's amazing. It's a good place to be. What is that happiness thing? What is that at peace feeling? There's a lot about that in that book. And I kind of live about 60 miles from Neiman's away. So that how the title came about. That is how the title came alive. Right. Somebody helped me with that and gave me an idea and said a long time ago, time to write all that down. And you live 60 miles from Neiman's. There you got it. And I was like, well, I'm not really sure if anybody knows where Neiman Marcus is. But in America, everybody knows where Neiman Marcus is. So that's what all kind of drove me to start it. I can definitely advise you to use the writing as a form of meditation, maybe as a form of working through trauma, as a form of anxiety relief. And it doesn't even have to do anything with yourself. Sometimes it can really be some stories that you make up, or maybe you want to write children books, spiritual books, religious. Maybe you want to write stories that you hear from others that come back to you. And think about what your legacy is. Think about why you would like to write these things down. And maybe if you put that in a little format, if you put all your little diaries together, what would come from it? And who would love to hear it? One of the things that I really had to convince myself of is that if you start to write, it is really difficult all of a sudden to believe that your word is valuable, that your word has value. There's a lot of doubt creeping in when it becomes kind of like a reality, like, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to publish it. There's a lot of doubt creeping in and things like, oh, nobody cares, or what kind of imposter syndrome do I have, right? This whole thing about, why would anybody care? Everybody already knows this. It's nothing new. So all these things will come to you, and those things are good and healthy. Those are very boycotting thoughts that you will move through, that you will overcome, that you will find yourself beating, because it's exciting. It is very kind of a nervous anxiety, but an exciting anxiety at the same time. So you might get the physical symptoms like, oh, sweating, and your heart is beating in your throat. But at the same time, you go like, well, it doesn't matter. Because what I learned from that, the lesson is that if I thought about the things that I was going to tell people, if I would reach one or two people that really thought that my little words, my little book, my little quotes were valuable, then yeah, you're right, I helped someone. And I just really kind of did the same in my work life, in my professional life, in my career. I had to learn that instead of just doing yoga and poses and fitness and stuff that everybody already knows, it was not about that. It was about my delivery and how I would do it and how I would present it and how I would bring it and how I would explain it that would make so much sense to people. If I would just really just think about the people that would come to my class and not be very busy in my mind with the people that didn't care and that left my yoga studio or fitness center or classes. Instead of being intimidated by that, and instead of being really kind of grumpy about it, I just had to focus on the people that were always there and be more grateful in the moments, and more grateful for the 2 or 3 people that found it really valuable, instead of thinking that all 500 need to love it, right? Because that's just not the reality. The reality is that we don't like always everything. Sometimes we go different routes, right? Sometimes we even go to a different hairdresser or a different nail person or a different store that we usually don't shop or go to, or somebody will provide us services and we are so loyal, but sometimes we change. And because sometimes we change and try out something new, that might also not have to do with the person that already delivered those services. So there is so much to learn from not taking it personal, not taking things personal. I made it a big deal because I used to think nobody would care. And so bringing it all back together, starting to believe a little bit in your own message. It is my little message. It's still a little message. It's still a little story. But if some people enjoy to read and they don't know me and they thought it was a crazy adventure or one day of our lives, soap opera, that's great. That's fine, because if you enjoy it and it made you laugh and it made you smile, it made you cry, it made you think, then mission accomplished. And I love that feeling. I love that feeling. I'm starting to learn to enjoy the compliments and take it in and be grateful and put on that grateful attitude of gratitude that I teach everybody else to do so in the morning. And if you're teaching, if you're counseling like I do, if you're a coach and a counselor like I do, you always know how to tell other people what to do, but not necessarily do you apply that to yourself. So that's one of the things that I definitely started to see, right? That if I have to be, if I am in this business and I tell other people what to do, I have to apply the life lessons to myself as well. And again, there comes that heal to heal. If I get to know you, you get to know me. If I get to know me through you, then that's a great plus of what we're doing in sharing. And I feel that some of us have been holding back in sharing their story. Some of us are not ready to face the true raw reality of what we've learned that was not always so pretty. Yeah, did I go through a couple of relationships? Sure, I surely did. But did they teach me a lot? Yes. Was it anybody's fault? No. And oh my gosh, I was probably a horrible, horrible, horrible person to live with once in a while as well. And if I look at that right now, and I look back at that, I'm thinking, oh my, it's so wonderful to know that and to be able to say that out loud. Yeah, I wasn't easy, and so weren't you. So you know, with the kind of thing, and kind of know, admit, make amends, stand for it, and just accept. For instance, with me, that yeah, I just like different things. I'm all over the place sometimes. It's not always easy to follow, but that I took the time to get it together, that I took the time to find it. It's important that you do that as well. The lessons that I wanted to share with you today is that if you write, it is good self-reflection. And it's good for anxiety and depression and working through trauma. It is good to write, for instance, a letter to a deceased loved one that maybe you have to say something still, or maybe you want to really know, want them to know that you're feeling a certain way. Maybe you want to share things that you could never tell because they weren't there. If you write that down, that helps tremendously. Some of my clients have written down anger letters, things that they had to let go. And if you really send it or not, just writing it down and just relieving and releasing those feelings is just a really, really big thing. It is really powerful, really healing. And it could be in letters, it could be a diary, it could be something as a little thing that you share with your loved one, right? Putting sticky notes, saying things that normally maybe you don't say so easy. Even what we call in my household mushy cards are great, right? The cards that you give each other that are full of love things and full of nice things. Dear husband, right? Those things are fun. And sometimes they say exactly what you want to say, but it's kind of not the right way that it comes out. And when you say something like that, it is fantastic. Super to share that with each other in a form of a card or a little letter, or even a little joke, kind of like sticky things that you give each other in your lunchbox, right? So those are some ideas that I give my clients. Besides working through movement, working through trauma, through movement, and the things that I teach, you can find that kind of thing. These kind of stories in my book. How did I go from fitness to wellness to a more intrinsic mind, body, spirit belief system? How did I come to believe that everything in our thinking is, already set there, but we can change it? And in our thinking determines all our actions. And we have so many reactions that are not healthy, so many reaction patterns that are not really good or profitable or beneficial for the relationships that we have around us, that we are in. Sometimes we need to change our thinking and learn how to do that. I did that, and that is work. Say sometimes we don't want to do the work, but we got to do the work. And if you're going through that, and if you really, for instance, use words again and patterns for meditation or for little things that you tell yourself every day, you manifest things in your thinking that will stay there and that are different. And those things are really important. It's really important to work for it, to do the work for it. I did. I worked hard. I worked hard on myself, with others, with mentors, self-mastery, reading words. How do I say things? How do I think? What are my reaction patterns? Why do I always do the same with a negative outcome? How do I start to think more positive so that I really have a great message for people and I can love and give everybody energy and shine at the same time, right? And really help people with that. How do I need to change my thinking so that I can start giving that away? And was that my why? Yes, that was my why. And so through all that help and through all that thinking and through all those books and through all reading and mastery and self-mastery and education and others, I came to the conclusion that I could finally find my why. It was always something that I already did, but I didn't really believe myself that it was important, that it had a meaning, that it was good, and that it was good for others. It was what I needed to do, where I needed to be. If you find your purpose, if you find your why, then what you do is not important. It is not at all about what you do. I hope to tell you my why, and I don't want to tell you my what. What do you have? A window, a car, a home? Doesn't matter. What you have or what you do is CEO, dancer, actor, writer, teacher, educator, mover, shaker, right? It's not about what you do, it's about why you do that. Why does it make you feel happy, respected, valuable? That's what we all want to feel. Want to feel valuable, want to feel needed. It's very important that we feel that. And I see that in a lot of people that come through my practice and a lot of people that come through my business as a counselor. And I work with a lot of people that are in active addiction, recovery from addiction. I work with a lot of people with an addictive nature. I work with a lot of people with addictive genes. Why do we do the things that we do, even if they have a very negative outcome? Like addiction, like alcohol, drugs. Why do we do these things? We always do them to hide what's behind it, right? It's a band-aid on the things that we are going through that we don't want to show, we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to deal with. And in my case, we call that trauma-informed care. We have to go back. We have to go back to where it started. What did hurt? What was so painful? We don't realize how much we can hurt each other with little words, actions, even with things, the way we look at each other, the way we approve things. Why do we need to have that sense of constantly labeling, giving our opinion, right? So I learned that if it's really positive, really loving and caring, then I'll say it. If my thoughts are not so nice, I can still be better at it, but I shouldn't say it. If you really want to give wonderful, constructive criticism, you go to somebody. If you don't have anything nice to say, look inside, right? It's very important. Look inside, because that's where it all is. That's where you need to be. Absolutely. I am so glad to share this with you today. I am so excited to tell you about this book. I keep it up one more time. 60 Miles from Neiman's. Finding your way back from others' expectations. Right? I hope you'll get it on Amazon, and it'll be available on more platforms. And I will keep you updated about that. You can find a lot of information on my website, www.elianhaan.com. And you can also find a lot of videos and all these TV shows on www.winwinwomen.tv, several TV channels, and a lot on my YouTube. Right? I would love to communicate with you. Let me know what you're thinking. Stay after the show's chat, and just all over the place and right here. So I am very grateful for you. I'm so glad that we were together today. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you next week. And thank you for listening to me and being here today on this episode of Elian's Joy. I will see you next week. Bye.